My AliExpress 1111 purchase finally arrived and it's fantastic, but it also came with a QC issue that I have to point out. So stick around because I'm going to show you exactly what went wrong with this watch. Today's unsponsored review is on the addiesdive AD2080, and as you can probably imagine, the Patek-esque elements are what caught my eye. But here's the interesting part, it's not a direct homage, so it borrows that luxury sports vibe without feeling like an exact straight copy, which is exactly why I picked it up. This one cost me just over $100 and I bought it myself, so no sponsorship, no brand deal influencing any of my thoughts here, which I think a lot of y'all might appreciate. So it's just my genuine curiosity that allowed me to make that purchase. So let's crack into it and see what you're actually getting for the money, the good, the great, and the one thing that went wrong with this watch. Right out of the box, the AD2080 feels solid. The 316L stainless steel case comes in at 41 millimeters, just at around 46.5 millimeters lug to lug, and it comes in at just around 13 millimeters thick. That is including the crystal. The bezel's a bit smaller at 38 millimeters, so visually this watch is going to wear a little more compact. And at 146 grams full length, it's got that reassuring heft, but once I sized this down to my 7¼ inch wrist, it dropped to around 130 grams, which honestly feels perfect. It's substantial, but light enough for all day wear. And again, this isn't just another clone either. This has that modern sports look without being a direct copy of anything. And the finishing is what really caught me off guard. addiesdive, this is the second one that I've reviewed on my channel, and I gotta say, they're surprisingly refined for a $100 watch. The finishing on the case really deserves a minute of appreciation. It's the kind of detail that can be easy to miss unless you slow down and really take it all in. The lugs curve inward slightly, and the thin line of high polish running along their edge gives off flashes of light you'd normally associate with something like an Omega or even a Grand Seiko. It's subtle but adds a lot of character, and on the case sides, you've got satin brushing broken up by thin polished borders that flow from lug tip to crown guard. The bezel sits just a touch higher than the mid case, and it features vertical satin brushing with a polished lip around the top edge. Now on mine, the brushing isn't perfectly straight. It's just slightly off angle if you catch it in the right light. And of course, this may be a deal breaker for some, but the QC can vary a little with these watches, so just be sure to reach out to the seller if you decide to initiate a return, should you get a bit unlucky, as I did with mine. Now the screw down crown measures at just about 6.5 millimeters. It threads nicely and it feels secure. There's no grinding, there's no wobble, and it helps maintain that 200 meters of water resistance that this watch has. So this isn't just a desk diver. Of course, around back, you've got the stainless steel screw down case back. And this is my thing with addiesdive. Of course, as I mentioned in my other review, the branding, it's a bit much. So the logo branding isn't my favorite. I'm not the hugest fan of their logo that they use on the case back. Not a big deal since you really don't see that while it's on the wrist, but on the bracelet, for example, this is a 3-link oyster style bracelet, has nice venting to it, a little bit of play, but that branding that you see there is just, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I would have been fine with a little more subtle of a logo that they used. But again, simple, clean, consistent finishing with the rest of the watch. Double pusher safety folding clasp, and you do also get 5 micro adjustment slots, so you can dial this in perfectly for your wrist size. Okay, now moving to that dial, because this is the part that really makes the AD2080 stand out. It has the vertical 3D stripe texture where the raised sections have a sunburst sheen and the recessed sections are matte. And the effect is really gorgeous in person. It's almost like a flipped version of the Patek Nautilus, the same style of dimensional striping, but running vertically instead of horizontally. It's also topped off with a fume gradient, which is fading darker towards the edges, which gives the dial more depth and mood. And there are 3 color options on this watch: black, blue, and as you see here, in green. I went with the green dial mainly because I already own more than enough black and blue watches. Now in person, it shifts from bright emerald in the center to this deeper forest green on the outer edge, and it just works flawlessly. This is one of those pieces where pictures online just don't do it justice. The hands are also one of my favorite parts of this watch. They have this trident or tuning fork shape, and I really like that addiesdive didn't just go generic here as far as the handset. The finishing is also pretty impressive too. You have satin brushing down the middle with some polished bevels on the edges and a clean execution all around. For a watch at this price point, that's honestly a really good deal. Now the hour markers and the hands are applied and filled with BGW9 Super Luminova, giving off that cool bluish glow that we all love. The lume's actually pretty strong for this watch, and it's evenly applied, matches great with the hands, and I would say that that lume starts to fade after about an hour or so. Now at 3 o'clock, you've got a simple date window with a beveled edge. Now a metal border would have been a nice touch, but even without it, it's actually neatly done. The white date wheel actually looks good here. It breaks up the dial nicely instead of clashing with it, in my opinion. Now, up top, you've got that box dome sapphire glass crystal. And of course, you guys know when it comes to those AliExpress specials, seeing sapphire glass used at this price point is always appreciated. Now, spending some time with this on the wrist, there doesn't appear to be any type of anti-reflective coating that's been applied. So just keep that in mind. You will get a little bit of glare in brighter light, but that vertical dial texture also helps break up those reflections enough that the watch stays readable. And of course, that dome sapphire glass adds some vintage charm. You get that soft edge distortion when you tilt it, which gives this watch a lot of personality, of course. Now, the movement that's running inside of this watch is the Seiko NH35A. Of course, you get hacking, hand winding, around 41 hours of power reserve. This particular movement is running with an accuracy of about -5 to -6 seconds per day, with an amplitude of around 244 and a beat error of 0.6, which is pretty typical for these movements. It's not chronometer rated, of course, but it's tried and true movement. It's easy to service, a solid choice. I would have liked to have seen a little bit better beat error on this movement, but again, not a deal breaker for me. Now, going back to the pricing, I picked this one up for just over $100, and that was during the AliExpress 11/11 sale. So at the time of this review, price seems to be around that same point. So you might be able to save a little bit there, but I'll have links in the description and comments. Again, those are affiliate links for me through my channel. They don't cost you anything extra, but they do help my channel out. So I do appreciate the support if you use my links. But drop me your thoughts and let me know what you think of this addiesdive 80, 20, 80. And of course, thanks for checking out my review. I'll see you guys at the next one. Take care.